Casey is, I believe he's vacationing with his family, which is awesome. But today I wanted to actually chat a little bit about a story from yesterday. And I was feeling a lot of frustration with it just because normally when we do webinars with our clients, we're going from getting them, helping with the foundational aspects of it, of generating the leads, getting people to actually show up to their webinar. So when people working who are working with us, basically their only job is to show up to a webinar, people are there, and have people actually schedule a call and buy from them, right? And so it's actually a funny story with this background here. This was actually a in-person event, or I guess a virtual event that we did, where we would bring thousands of people through, like, virtually online, and then there was someone who's standing in the middle of the stage right here, and what they would do was actually just like speak and teach and educate. And this was done, like, I believe day one was like a 7-8 hour training, day two was a 7 hour training, and we wanted to take this training, record it, and redistribute it for millions of people, and actually resell it in the school systems and things like that. So finally we were able to kind of get that done, and I kind of wanted to share a little bit of the story in the background on that. But last night in particular, we were doing a webinar where we did the promotion. We registered, I believe it was about like 44,000 people. We promoted it. We had probably around, so we have like this process where we'll generate the lead, like I was talking about earlier, and then we'll get people to actually show up. So it was a little bit under 100 people. Took us about 2 to 3 days to actually promote it. So it was decently successful for all intents and purposes. And usually the goal is that about 10% of the people who are there should actually ultimately become a customer if we're doing the marketing right. And so with the goal was, well, if we were selling $1,000 product, we were going to get about 10 people to actually purchase. And what happened was, back in the day when we would do the same presentation, when I say back in the day, been running the same presentation for about 4 or 5 years. And what we would do is run a very kind of different model, or it'd be the same model that we're running now, but the idea was that we would do a little bit of training, we do a lot of teaching, a lot of educating, make an offer, and then at the end, get people to actually purchase. And since so many people have been so I guess adapted to doing online events and attending them, and it's not as new of a thing anymore. People want to get to the chase. They love the content. They want to work with you. Just tell me what I need to do to get to move forward. And so this client in particular that we're working with is very set in the ways of how he wants to, how he and she wants to actually run their online events. So they don't want to take any feedback. They don't want to kind of change with the times. And because it works well enough, if they make any changes that kind of goes against their comfort level, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about, the psychology of fear, of if they're not willing to go through and actually make those changes, because if they're trying new things and they try to move fast and they try to break things, and some of it might work, some of it might not, but they know if they keep on the same path, they're going to still get their consistent results. And when we would do this same model, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we do a webinar, take about 3 days, anywhere from 3 to 7 days of promotion, and that would ultimately generate anywhere from 10 to 20,000 in revenue, right? So we're bringing about 10 to 20 new customers. We would sell $1,000 products, and then from there, that would generate the 10 to 20,000 in revenue. And then we'd have a follow-up process where we help segment the audience. We're figuring out where they're coming from, who clicked on a call to action, who went to the sales page, and then we'd have different follow-up processes for those people. And so that's something that we still run. It works very, very successfully on that side. And so now what's happened is that, because they wanted to kind of continue to run that same model that they were doing and not really change the structure of the presentation, change the structure of how they're running things, change the structure of just how they're running the technology. You had 100 people actually show up, and people, while he was giving he and she were giving the presentation, they were just leaving. They were not interested. They weren't engaged, and that was just kind of causing, a reason. And there's also communications in the chat that's going on of like, let's get to the point, let's get to the point. And then if one person is actually verbalizing that and other people are thinking that, then that kind of has like a cascading effect of other people dropping off versus it also could happen on the inverse. Back in the day, people were like, I'm going to sit on here. This is going to be great. I can't wait to see what's going to be offered. And so that would get people really, really excited as well. And so now that's kind of had the inverse effect for the worst, I guess you can say, of now people are saying, let's get to the point, let's do this. And because they're not changing and other new people are kind of coming in here learning what's the right model, what's the right way of doing it, what's the psychology of how people are interacting with online events these days, what's the best way to adapt, how can we take the data that's coming in and look at it from a scientific approach and say, okay, this is what's happening at this point, and this point. Now we need to go make our changes. And so what we like to do is have a data-driven approach of say, listen, this is what's going on. People are signing up. They're interested in the content. They're showing up. But for some reason, once you say this thing at this certain point at this time of the presentation, people lose interest, right? And so we can present all of that data to the best of our ability. But if they're not willing to act on that, then people are going to go through and drop off because they're just not interested, right? And so the idea of having a fear-based approach of, I don't really want to change this because I know I'll at least get X dollars of revenue, right? So last night, we're used to the 10, 15, $20,000 in revenue off usually an hour event. But they wanted to go longer. They wanted to have less people on, do the same thing, and they got a $4,000 result, right? And so now what do we need to do to make changes and make improvements around that? A lot. But if you're not coachable and you're not willing to make changes, you're not willing to look at the data, there's not much that you can do there, right? So the takeaway from that is, even though you're something that might have worked for you a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and you continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, and you're expecting a different result, is the definition of insanity. So when you are able to, and we're in a very data-driven world now, right? So if you're able to have an opportunity to go through, make a change, use that to the best of your ability, and look at the data to make improvements and make iterative improvements every single time you're doing something. Again, whether it's a sales approach, you're trying to sell a product, you're trying to sell a service, you're trying to raise money, you're trying to hire new people, you're trying to bring on high quality talent. There's so much that you can absolutely be doing there to improve and grow your company and have exponential results. But people are stuck, right? They're stuck at a certain level of their business for that reason, because of that fear to change. So I would definitely implore you today, yesterday, tomorrow, to look at things objectively. If someone was to hire you to step outside of your business and make one dramatic change, if you were to sell your business and the seller or the buyer of your company was to say, this is the first thing I'm going to change, from your perspective, you should ask yourself, what would that be, right? And so that will give you a good foundation to really look at your business a little bit differently, because we're so in it all the time and we're stuck in the weeds and we can't really see what's going on outside of our business because you're so busy operating on the day-to-day side of it. So definitely take a step back. Maybe it makes sense to step away from your computer, right? If you're watching this video, you're probably not doing that yet, but I would definitely challenge you to do that today or tomorrow. Take the weekend to do that and say, what's the three or one major shift or small change that can actually have a cascading impact on the business. So take definitely think about that. Wanted to kind of just share that today. I'm not able to have a good back and forth with Casey today, but I wanted to at least share some of that insight with you. And always looking to add additional value to companies. And so sometimes people will say, hey, can I send you my website? Can I send you my marketing campaigns? And I actually like to look at your business, and I like to review and see what you have going on. Sometimes I'll even make a personalized video for your business and say, hey, consider X, Y, and Z based on the data that I'm seeing here for you to go make that change if you want to overcome that psychology of fear. So again, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll get back to you soon. Have a great one.